students and staff, judges, friends, family, comrades, partners, peers, and professors. Thank you for bringing yourselves, your stories, your hopes, and your ideas into this room tonight. Whether you are here to listen, here to speak, have spoken, have listened, you activated this space in some way. This moment is charged. We have come together this evening to ask, how do we heal divides? Are we ready to heal divides? At the very least, how do we build bridges? How do we better align ourselves with the people most affected by our recent election? There is no perfect way to combat the current division in our country. There is no single answer. But our liberal arts education is a good place to start. This room and this activated space is a good place to start. Why? Because we have thinkers. We have speakers and we have listeners. We have artists and we have scientists. We have world travelers and historians. We have political scientists and mathematicians. Liberal arts colleges are places that produce people with a willingness to explore and engage. Frederick Douglass famously argues that without a struggle, there can be no progress. The liberal arts here at Juniata teach us that friction is a part of growth. We cherish intellect, but we know that intellect is not enough. Bell Hooks famously asserts that the moment we choose to love, we begin to move towards freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others. Together, we must lean into a discomforting struggle with sincerity, with compassion, and with love. What does love and leaning in look like? It will look different depending on who you are and where you are in life. When I was 5 years old, I used to write comics and op-eds about our president and our politicians. I would play outside with sticks, mud, and leaves, and I would stage coups or plot operations to overthrow the US government. As some of you may know, this vaguely radical streak has followed me into young adulthood. I have been attending sit-ins, walkouts, protests, marches, and strikes since I was in middle school. When I was in high school, I would regularly skip school in order to protest in the streets. The people united will never be defeated. I am used to rabble-rousing. But in college, and in this town, and in this political environment, it has been very challenging for me to reconcile my thirst for education and knowledge, my role as student, with my thirst for action, mobilization, and protest, my role as agitator. Even to this day, I am known to skip class, drive across the state, and attend various actions, meetings, or events related to our current political and social climate. Recently, in recent months, I have finally learned that these two things, student and agitator, are not mutually exclusive. My education informs my actions, and my actions inform my education. My liberal arts courses drive me to engage. And I believe that this stems from our principles here at Juniata, Principles that say we recognize the value of being a citizen of the world in an increasingly global and diverse community. That we believe in the spirit of sustainability, that we seek to give back to humanity, and that we know learning is a lifelong process encompassing many disciplines. When I was in the midst of writing a paper about hijabi Muslim women last year, I ended up having an experience that really brought my paper and my research to life. I was walking to a friend's house late one night in Huntingdon alone. And as I walked, a truck drove up next to the sidewalk and began to follow slowly along behind me, revving their engine. I started walking quickly until I reached the end of the block, but the truck kept pace with me. And as I braced myself for the regular catcalls or whistling, the three men in the car swerved past, shouting, "Go home, bitch." One of them leaned out the car window and spat across my face. As a woman, I am familiar with various forms of harassment. But it took me a second to realize that this particular treatment was due to the fact that I had been cold, and I had taken a colorful scarf and wrapped it around my head and my shoulders. I am not a Muslim woman, but in this society, women with headscarves are regularly the targets of hate crimes. In fact, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, anti-Muslim hate groups have tripled between 2015 and 2016 over the course of our presidential campaign. Racism, prejudice, and bigotry have become normalized by our politicians, particularly by the man who is now the face of our country. These are the divides that we seek to heal in our nation and in our communities. What do we do with these incidents that divide us? We lean in. We have to address these moments of tangled ignorance. We have to take risks to fight systems, laws, or ways of thinking that threaten our humanity. My 5-year-old self was ready to overthrow an unjust government by writing op-eds, writing comics, and/or by staging a coup. My middle school self and my high school self thought that one of the only ways to challenge our government or challenge injustice was to protest in the streets. But what college has sparked in me is the understanding that we will evolve into a just and true world. We will build bridges when we lean in to difference. We can maximize change when we support the various tactics, skills, or solutions that each person has to offer. Which is why, with admiration, I want to acknowledge the importance of all of our speakers and all of our listeners leaning in tonight. Bayard Rustin once said, "We need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers." Let us all, with the tools of the liberal arts, be those troublemakers. So if you haven't been engaged in resistance, in movement building, or social justice before this critical point in history, I welcome you now with warmth and with open arms. People on the margins of society have been fighting. Lean in, because we need you. We have always needed you, and we need you more than ever. I love you, and I have been waiting. So welcome.